No role plays, no conference calls, no BS. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader. This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And welcome to this week's Thoughtful Thursday. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at Hacking Your Leadership and leave us a review on iTunes. On this Thoughtful Thursday, I want to talk about what is affectionately known as the Eisenhower Matrix. Have you heard of this, Lorenzo?
I heard of it. Is this like a prequel with Keanu Reeves? Or...
Yes, it's the Eisenhower Matrix. It's the one from the 90s. That's a remake.
You the Cold War Matrix? Right?
Yes, exactly. What if I told you that there was a 4-box grid that you could assign things to?
I know karate. Sorry, go ahead.
It's kung fu, but thanks.
Whatever.
You've heard the terms do, delegate, defer, right?
Yes, I have heard those, yes.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it once or twice on the show before. The Eisenhower Matrix is similar to that, except there's a 4th option, which is delete. The tasks basically get assigned to one of 4 kind of quadrants. There's the tasks that are both important and urgent. Then there's tasks that are important, but they're not urgent. There are tasks that are not important, but they are urgent, and there are tasks that are neither important or urgent. And when I first see that matrix without any of the definitions, my first initial inclination is to say, wait a minute, how could something be urgent but not important, right? And you think about something like that, and they classify that as something you should delegate. So it means that if it needs to get done, but not necessarily by you. Right. So, yeah, if something doesn't need to get done by anybody, then you can get rid of it. I like this more than the old do, delegate, defer because of the addition of the delete option there. Do, delegate, defer to me says that whoever's creating the task, there is no option to not do it. It's gonna get done, whether it's you now, you later, or by somebody else. It is what it is. And I like to think that leaders with autonomy, leaders who are high-performing and who lead high-performing teams should have the ability to decide what things are unnecessary distractions that don't need to get done. They don't need to get delegated or saved for later. They can just go away. What are your thoughts about this matrix?
Yeah, I like it too. And I like the change in language where it's, instead of it saying defer, where it's like not urgent but important, it says schedule. Mm-hmm. Right. Yep. And I like that because it says tasks with unclear deadlines that contribute to long-term success. So they are important. These things do have to happen, but they don't have to happen right now. Mm-hmm. And so the schedule to me versus defer is a proactive thinking and reasoning of saying, I need to make sure this gets done. I need to make sure that it maintains a priority. But I do appreciate that because I think there are many times when there are things that fall into that bucket. The other thing that I like about this is, urgent, important, so the do are tasks with deadlines or consequences.
Or both.
Or both, right? Exactly. Yeah. And or, right? Sometimes when things fall into this bucket, I don't know that I agree that they are urgent. I will tell you that. I think sometimes the urgency is passed on to me because somebody else thinks that it's urgent or somebody else thinks that it's important, or somebody else, I think what's the old saying that like a lack of preparation on yours?
Lack of preparation on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part.
Yes, exactly right. So there are many times when I am told that something is both urgent and important, and I say, actually, it's neither. I'd like to delete that. But
I always say, you can tell me how you're going to do something, or you can ask me to do it.
Exactly.
But you can't tell me how I'm going to do it.
Exactly right. Yes. So I like this, and especially because I was just having a conversation the other day with a leader around another leader where maybe priority setting was something they were working on. Like they were struggling with getting some of the work done. And it's definitely not because they're not capable of doing it. It's definitely not because they don't know how to do it. But I think that they would utilize this. Like this could be something that would be really helpful when it comes to like, here's all the things that need to get done. Because I think they may be subscribed to the do, delegate, defer, which then is like, there's no delete. Like you have to do all these things. And I think that could be really, really helpful. So like, I like this matrix and it sounds simple and it sounds easy. And most people are like, no, I get it. And I've seen it. And I know the quadrants and everything like that, but to really sit down and utilize it, I think it'd be really helpful for a lot of leaders.
Right. When I hear the word defer, I think of kicking the can down the road, right? Like it would be important if I had the time, but I don't have the time, so I'm not going to do it right now. But if it's not important, then you'll never find the time, right? There'll always be something that is urgent and important that pushes that other thing back to the end of the, back to the bottom of the list again, and then it never gets done. Well, if that's the case, if it didn't need to get done at all, then you should have gotten rid of it. It should get deleted. So yes, I like the idea of it being not defer, but rather schedule, because it implies that you have to address it right away. You don't necessarily have to do it right away, but by scheduling it, you are addressing it. You're saying, I'm going to put this on the calendar for this time, and then when that time comes, I'm going to do it, because it is important to do. It's necessary to do, but it's not urgent in the moment. And I think that I can't think of a task that can be assigned to anybody or that can be passed down to you by a leader that doesn't fall into one of these 4 categories. You might disagree with your leader on which one it falls into, but there isn't a 5th option, right? It's either something that needs to get done right away by you. No one else can be trusted with this. It has to be you, either because they can't do it or because it's your job responsibility. It's your actual part of your role. Or it's something that you can use as a training opportunity, a development opportunity for other people. But it has to get done right away. So you can assign it to somebody and know that they have to do it right away. But it is, I don't want to say not important, but not important for you to do. I think that's where the clarity has to be given here. To say something is urgent but not important, I think it devalues the learning opportunity for the person you're delegating it to. So it's not important. It's just not important for you to put on your plate as the leader. You can put it to somebody else where they can actually utilize that as a learning opportunity. And then again, deleting things that are absolutely unnecessary and being clear and honest with yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, am I just not comfortable with deleting this because of what the implications are? So I'm going to continue to kick the can down the road when I should be deleting it. Do I need to have a conversation with my leader about what things should be deleted? Do we have a difference of opinion on what constitutes important versus urgent? And so what I want to ask you, Lorenzo, is have you ever had a difference of opinion with a leader where they felt something was important and urgent and you felt like it was different than that? And so I want to ask you that, but first I want to give it a word from one of our sponsors. All right, Lorenzo, tell me about a time when you had to move through this situation where you had somebody throwing something at you that was both important and urgent to them, and you knew that it didn't necessarily have to be in that quadrant. It could go somewhere else. How did you kind of navigate through that?
I think sometimes in the short-sightedness of urgency, people think like it has to get done right away. It must be you. You said it a little bit earlier, but then you kind of like glaze over the opportunity for development or learning from another leader. And so there are very specific tasks that only I can do, like that only I'm the person who has to do it for different reasons, whether it's legal reasons or whatever the case is. But those are very, very, very few things.
Yep.
The vast majority of the things that I can do, other leaders can also do. And I think when it comes to the development of leaders, these opportunities sometimes are not always there. So you have to find those spaces and times when there is an opportunity for them to get experience with something that would be a decision or a situation that they wouldn't really normally be involved in, but can have a chance to go through it and to learn. And that's where I will sometimes say like, hey, this will get done. 100%. This will get done. It will be done by the deadline. It will be done the correct way. It will be done to your satisfaction. But I'm going to work with somebody to get this done because I see this as a learning moment, and I see this as something that could add some value to another one of our leaders. So again, I'm going to be clear about that up front, because what you can't do is say, oh, I got it, no problem. And you say, hey, Lorenzo, I need you to take care of this. And I say, you got it, Chris, I'll take care of it. And then I give it to somebody else. And then they do something and it's not exactly right. And then you come back and you say, I thought I said you were going to take care of it. And I said, well, I meant that like I would oversee it. I meant that like I would make sure it would get done. Right. You should not do that. Right. If you're going to move it from that bucket to any of the other 2 or 3, you got to be clear. You got to be upfront with that. And you have to say like, here's what I'm going to do so that you're aware of that. I'm either going to bring in another leader and have them to have an opportunity to work on this, or I'm going to schedule this. I know you say it's urgent for you. Right now, I don't see it that way. Here's why I don't see it that way. I will get that taken care of next Tuesday or next Wednesday. and you kind of move on. But I think that's the important part is if you're going to shift it to a different box, you have to communicate what you're doing and why you're doing it.
I completely agree with that. I think a lot of leaders might fall into this trap where they don't inherently explain the why they've put it into a certain box. So someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Lorenzo, I need you to take care of this." And in their mind, they're thinking this is urgent and important. And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, I mean, I've delegated this before to people on my team. I can delegate this again. If the person who's asked you to do it hasn't shared with you the context on why you specifically are being asked to do it, then it might go over your head. You might not realize there's other things working in the background that might mean that you don't necessarily understand the gravity of the situation of why you have to do it. And so you go to delegate it. Yeah, that's a miss on your part if you haven't stopped to make sure there's clarity there. Hopefully the leader would provide that clarity up front if they need to make sure you're the one doing it, especially if you have a track record of really positive examples of delegation and that going well. Hopefully they would. But at the end of the day, if you're the one being asked to do it, you don't get to delegate it without making sure that the person who's asked you to do it understands that's what you're going to do. And by making sure there's clarity around that, you're never going to have a situation where you've accidentally or intentionally delegated something and find out later that's going to cause more problems than it would have if you just gotten it done yourself. Because you're right, very, very few things normally would fall into things you have to do. Almost all of them can be scheduled. Almost all of them can be delegated. But the otherwise, how would anybody ever get promoted? You have to be able to demonstrate the ability to do the role before you take the role. So by definition, they have to be able to do these things. I think that's such an important clarity there. Is that have the conversation up front. Don't just assume that you get to decide where things go simply because you've decided that in the past.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And have a great day.